Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports with another football video, and today I'm talking about why the Dallas Cowboys will win Super Bowl 57 this season. I think a lot of people, especially sports commentators, don't give the Cowboys enough credit for their team, especially not Dak Prescott. This team has been in contention to do very well the entirety of Prescott's career, and I think that this season is no different. Dak Prescott started in the league in 2016, as everyone watching this video probably knows, and I think that he is peaking at the right time. He hasn't had the best defenses so far in his career, but last year the Cowboys' defense was stronger than any that they've had before, and 2020 was one of the strongest starts he's had to a season, and last year was his best full season of his career. He had 4,500 yards, 37 touchdowns, and only 10 interceptions. I think that this season there's an argument that he could do even better because of the experience of this young team. They're getting to play more games with each other, and they're getting more reps every year. He was injured also in 2020, so last year he was coming off of injury, and he still had a phenomenal season. And although he was not nominated for the Pro Bowl. 2020, I think we saw a different Dak Prescott than we'd ever seen before. He was really gunslinging the football. In the 5 games that he played, he had 1,900 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. And I think that this season, I think that he needs to come out and do that. I think that he needs to come out, throw a couple dozen passes a game, and really go for it this year. I think that this is the year that the Cowboys need to really go big or go home, and I think that a possibility is that Dak Prescott could just throw the ball 50 times every game, and it'll just work. Some of the reasons why it's going to work are CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. I know Amari Cooper is no longer on the roster, but Michael Gallup has been with the Cowboys his whole career, probably 4 or 5 years now. CeeDee Lamb is going into his 3rd year in the league, and I think that this top 2 wide receiver duo will get you what you need to be that gunslinging quarterback. Amari Cooper is a phenomenal player, but I think that his style of play and Dak Prescott's style of play don't always match up exactly. Last year, Dak's yards per completion were only 10.9 compared to 12.6 and 12.3 the previous couple of seasons, and his yards per attempt were also down to 7.5 instead of 8.5, which were the previous couple of years. I think that CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup are more deep threats, but Michael Gallup can also play in the slot, and he's a very versatile player. I think that having both of these deep threats that can also do posts, slots, slants, I think that is a more versatile offensive scheme than having CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper as your starting 2. And I think that with Dalton Schultz also being in there with tight ends, he can also draw defenders, and you'll have 3 guys you need to cover on every play. And I think that the offense won't suffer a whole lot from the loss of Amari Cooper. In fact, it could even gain some from the aging of the players and the new rookies that the Cowboys were able to get in the offseason, like Jalen Tolbert and Dennis Houston. The running back room also looks better and better every year. A couple of years ago, nobody could have told you who Tony Pollard was, except for maybe Cowboys fans. And Ezekiel Elliott obviously has had a phenomenal career so far. Everyone's saying that Ezekiel Elliott is regressing, but I beg to differ. I think that he's just sharing more carries. He's not getting the ball as much, and I think that it's a good thing. I think that Elliott is a very phenomenal player, but I think that Tony Pollard brings a lot to the table on this team. He averaged 5.5 yards per carry last season, which is insane. He also averaged 8.6 yards per reception, and he really gives that second depth to the running position on the Cowboys. Although Ezekiel Elliott does catch the football, he's not as big a receiving back as Tony Pollard is. Pollard averaged per touch 6.2 yards per touch last season, which is phenomenal for a running back, and he barely had over 1,000 yards. I can see both of these guys rushing for 1,000 yards next season and getting a good number of receiving yards on top of that. Having the ability this offense is stacked. It was one of the best offenses in the league last year, mostly due to the passing game, but the rushing game was also very solid. I think that having Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard back, with Tony Pollard being a year older and another year that they can find ways to incorporate him into the offense in a more creative way is always a positive thing. This offense is still going to be one of the best offenses in the league next year, and I think that Dalton Schultz is going to have another great season too. I think a lot of people are underestimating his abilities, but I think that next year, with the loss of Amari Cooper, he's going to really fill a role that they need. They need one of the top tight ends in the league, and I think that he can be a top 5 tight end in the NFL next year. Moving on to the defense side of the football, there's a lot of defensive players on the Dallas Cowboys that are very strong. DeMarcus Lawrence has been on the team, I believe, since 2013 or 2014, and he's been a phenomenal player, multiple-time Pro Bowler, DeMarcus Lawrence on the line. But the 3 players I wanted to highlight, they also picked up Malik Hooker. I forgot what team he was on, but he's a safety who's pretty consistent in his play. The 3 people I wanted to talk about the most were Leighton Vander Esch, Trevon Diggs, and Micah Parsons. Leighton Vander Esch has been in the league for 4 years, Micah Parsons has been in the league for 1 year, and Trevon Diggs has been in the league for 2. And all 3 of these players are phenomenal at their position. Vander Esch doesn't have the recognition, I don't think, as the other 2 do yet, especially because Micah Parsons in his first season won not only Defensive Rookie of the Year, but also First Team All-Pro and was on the NFL 100 list in the top 20. But all 3 of these players are spectacular, and they're all going to be a year older next year. That means they all would have played with each other for a year. They all would have played with the defense for a year. And this defense was a top 10 defense last year. Dak Prescott hasn't had a lot of top 10 defenses in his career. I don't even know if the 2016 team was a top 10 defense. This Cowboys defense got better and better, and the best part is that the defense got better and better throughout the entirety of last season. Every week, the defense looked a little bit more consistent. The passing game was a little bit more consistent. The rushing defense was a little more consistent. And I think that by the time the playoffs got there, although it wasn't phenomenal in the playoff game, the defense overall got better. And I think that they're going to carry a lot of that momentum into this season. I think that Trevon Diggs also is going to play a much safer game next year. And I think that that's going to be a positive thing for the team. Although his 11 interceptions are very impressive, and you haven't seen that in about 30-something years in the NFL, I think that he needs to play more conservative football. I think that that's a positive thing for this defense, is bend and don't break instead of try and find the flashy play. And I think that from what we've seen in their practices, in their joint practices, and their preseason games, I think that that's what they're trying to do. I think that that's what Trevon Diggs is trying to do. And I think it's going to be a good system going in. Make sure that you are watching out for the opportunities for those flashy plays, but make sure that you're very conservative as well so that you don't give up anything big. And I think that having a more consistent defense along with that offense that maybe can take a few more risks with a defense that's a little more consistent would be a phenomenal combination to try and win a Super Bowl this year. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.